We have the Koch brothers are now worth $100 billion. A few years ago it was $80 billion. A few years before that it was $50 billion. It's now $100 billion. How is there value in that? This is like the end of the Monopoly game, where one guy has got all the money and all the properties, and everybody's paying rent. I'm suggesting if you can't live on $999,999,999.99, there's something wrong with you. Peter Schiff is the CEO and Chief Global Strategist for Euro-Pacific Capital, host of the Peter Schiff Show on radio, and author of the latest The Real Crash, America's Coming Bankruptcy, How to Save Yourself and Your Country. Schiff, SCHIFF, radio.com is his website. Peter, welcome back to the program. It's been a while.
Hey, thanks for having me back. Yeah.
Why should we tolerate billionaires in the United States? All this extra money is not in the productive economy.
Well, of course it is. But when you say you don't want to tolerate it, I mean, what is your plan? I mean, you said that $1 billion should be enough money, and I don't know where you're coming up with that figure. Why $1 billion? Why not $2 billion? Why not $500 million? But what is your solution? Are you suggesting that we should confiscate any wealth that anybody accumulates in excess of that number? Is that what you're suggesting?
Yes, I'm with Thomas Jefferson on this. He said that if
Thomas
wealth
Jefferson never said that.
He certainly did. He said not literally money. That. I could find the quote for you if you'd like, but I can paraphrase it. He said that if wealth grows to the point where it threatens a free state, and you can easily Google this, that the appropriate response is taxation that is geometric. Geometric taxation. So I'm saying basically 100% tax on all wealth over $1 billion.
So basically what you're saying is, let's say an individual entrepreneur creates a company,
right,
and that company achieves a $1 billion valuation.
Right.
You want that guy to retire, cash out, stop working, not grow the business, not produce even more innovative products, not hire any more people, but just when you hit $1 billion, you just stop working, you retire, and there's no more growth. You don't innovate, you don't invent. When Steve Jobs came up with, I don't even know when he got his first billion, but whatever inventions he made after that shouldn't exist.
Do you remember what Steve Jobs' paycheck was when he took back over Apple?
You're talking about net worth, though. You said no
$1.
No, but that's because he was a shareholder in the company. I mean, a lot of billionaires don't have big paychecks, right?
Okay.
I mean, Warren Buffett
point taken. Here's my take on what would happen. If you look back at what happened when Teddy Roosevelt initiated the breakup of Standard Oil, and ultimately it was not Republican Roosevelt, it was Republican Taft who finished the job, broke it into 28 companies. Shareholder value is dramatically increased. Competition was increased. The price of fuel went down. We saw tremendous innovation in the marketplace.
But the price of fuel was going down. Hold on. The price of kerosene was going down every year that Rockefeller was controlling Standard Oil. In fact, his cartels were... The main objection to Standard Oil was that he kept lowering prices and the competitors couldn't compete. But
you're misrepresenting it. Go back and read the history. It was that he was colluding with the railroad companies to refuse to carry the kerosene of his competitors.
No. But I want to talk about modern day.
Let's talk about the modern day. If I had had an opportunity to finish the sentence, that's what I was going to do. I was going to say when Richard Nixon decided to break up AT&T, and it finally ended up during the Carter administration, again, what we saw was an explosion in innovation. We saw the stockholder value. If you held AT&T shares before the breakup, you ended up making a lot of money as a result of that breakup, and it was a good thing for all of us. I'm saying,
none of that is at your point. I want you to explain to me. A guy has a business. Right. He becomes a billionaire, and now you want him to stop working. You say, we don't want you to hire any more people.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. No, what I'm saying, Peter, let me ask you. You put it as a rhetorical question. I'll give you a very specific answer. We can use the Koch brothers, but let me give you a flip side rhetorical question. When the top marginal tax rate was 91%, and the CEOs of all the big companies in America stopped, and that 91% didn't kick in until after you made about $3 million in today's dollars. There was basically not a single CEO in America who was making more than $3 million in today's dollars. And from the 1950s until the 1980s, you did not have the emergence of billionaires in the United States, even people who were innovative and starting companies.
No. In taxable compensation, when during that brief period in our history where income tax rates were that high, because for most of
40
our history,
years.
For most of our in history, we had no income tax. Okay, but during that period where the rates were that high, there were so many exemptions in the tax code that nobody really paid that rate. They paid it on a small fraction of their income.
CEO compensation was 30-1 to working people. There's a reason why, and it was because of that high tax rate. As soon as that tax rate went away, as soon as Reagan dropped that from 74 down to 28%, you saw CEOs start to make 100 to 1, then 200 to 1. Look, now it's like 1,000 to 1.
I can tell you that, look, I would trade the tax code when the top income tax rate was 90%. I would take that tax code today over what we have now because I would pay a lot less taxes under that tax code because I would be able to arrange my affairs in such a way that I would barely pay any taxes. And it's
here's how I would deal with Steve Jobs and Apple, okay? Since you asked. Or I could use the Koch brothers as an example. You just have to let me finish a sentence or two to give you the actual answer. You'd say to Steve Jobs, we're going to cap your wealth at $1 billion. So, you've got a bunch of stock in Apple, and that stock is now worth more than $1 billion. You need to start selling that stock off unless you want to start paying taxes on it. Well, actually, you will,
Well, you can't. You have to give it away because if he sells it, he gets cash, and you want to take that away from him.
Fine. So start giving that stock to your employees the same way the CEO of GM was paying. GM's average pay in the 1960s and 70s was $50 an hour. Start passing that back to your employees, and you will end up a minority stockholder in a majority company.
But that's not how it's going to work.
You don't want to let me finish my thought.
Well, you want to enslave these people and say once you got $1 billion, you have to work for the benefit of somebody else. You can't have anything of what you earn.
Peter, my heart is not going to bleed for some guy who's worth $999 million.
They're not going to work for free.
And the fact of the matter is that Steve Jobs would still Apple, when it becomes a public company, although it always was, and Steve Jobs was not, he didn't own more than 50% of the stock. But let's, use Koch Industries as an example. If you were to say to the Koch brothers, okay, Koch Industries is a privately held company. They own all the stock or the vast majority of it. Now you have to distribute that stock. It becomes a publicly held company. And if the public, all the stockholders still think that these people running it is a good idea, then they will hire them to run it. But hey, if your wealth is over $1 billion, that's where you stop.
They're worth $100 billion right now. Right. What you're saying is when they were worth $2 billion, they should have retired. They should have fired.
No, I'm not saying they should have retired. I'm saying they should have stopped accumulating wealth.
But that means retiring. What do you think they're working for? They're not going to work for nothing. They're not going to be our slaves.
There's a lot of people who work for the pleasure of work.
Why should they? Why do you want to enslave other people and expect they're going to work for the benefit of you?
I've worked for free many times in my life. I love my work.
Well, how about, you want to confiscate the wealth of everybody that has over $1 billion. I don't know what your net worth is, but assumably there are people that have less money than you. Maybe they think you have too much. Maybe they want to confiscate what you have.
Could be, and if you could build a case that my wealth has reached the point that Thomas Jefferson talked about, where it threatens a free state, then I would agree with you.
Look, this wealth in private hands
$100 billion in the hands of two people threatens a free state. And these guys are proving it.
Free state is big government. You want to make government bigger. That's what threatens freedom.
No, the Koch brothers want to own a big government. They want to put their shills in political office so that they own a big government.
No, the Koch brothers want to dismantle government. Government is too big. The Koch brothers
Republicans have never dismantled government, Peter. You and I have to agree on that. You know that.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Peter Schiff, P-E-T-E-R-S-C... Oh, I'm sorry, Schiff Radio, SCHIFF radio.com. Peter, thank you for dropping by.
Sure.
Good talking to you. We'll be back.